So, welcome back, everyone, to the healing room. Tonight's topic of conversation is the ego personality. But before I dive into that topic, I want to give some background regarding the soul and the journey of the soul, because the soul very much relates to the ego personality. So, this next piece of information that I'm going to share is coming from this book, God Speaks, by Mayor Baba. Some of you may know Mayor Baba. Some of you may know this book, but it is a book about the soul's journey. And I wouldn't say it's the easiest book to read, but it's very enlightening, very informative, because it is helpful for the soul to know the journey. And we are not taught any of this information throughout our life. So we have to do our own research to come up with the truth. And so it's the first time I've heard of this information in this way. But essentially, how the soul began was that God, in his infinite state, asked a question. And that question was, who am I? Who am I? And in desiring to know the answer to that question, God sent forth aspects of himself into existence. And those aspects are called souls. And so you may have heard of the Big Bang Theory. Apparently, that was the moment that God sent forth all of the souls into existence. And it's also called the Om point. And so the journey begins as an evolution in consciousness. And so the soul begins in its most basic state as a gas, the gaseous state. And then it has all these experiences in that state until it is filled, has enough information, and then it moves on to the next state, which is the stone state. And it hangs out in this state for as long as it needs to until it goes on to the next state, which is the metal state. Then it hangs out there until it is complete. And then it continues on this evolutionary journey in different forms, including the plant, the earthworm and reptiles, the fish, the birds, the animals, until it reaches the penultimate state of consciousness, which is the human state. So the evolution, according to Meher Baba, the evolution of consciousness is complete once we achieve a human body. Before that, we were having experiences of these various forms and accumulating data, impressions. Those impressions are called samskaras. Impressions of all these different experiences throughout the evolution of consciousness. And we're not individuated yet. We are in group minds or group state of consciousness as we are evolving. But once we get to a human state, we are individuals. We have human awareness, very different than all the other states. And so now we go through a reincarnation process to unwind from all the samskaras, all the impressions that we accumulated. In the book, there's a wonderful picture describing this whole process. There's um, many illustrations in the book and graphs to explain all of this. So if you want to avail yourself of more knowledge, I highly recommend taken the time to peruse, God speaks. And so when the soul incarnates as a human being, it is working with the samskaras and unwinding the samskaras. At the same time, it is working with karma, right? All of the actions, positive and negative actions that it creates throughout life. So the human soul is now going through this reincarnational process, thousands upon thousands of times. And each time it takes on a form, it creates a construct to navigate this reality. And that construct is called the ego personality, the limited self, the mask. And it needs this limited self, this mask, this construct, in order to engage the illusion, to engage this temporary reality, which is called an illusion because it's temporary, it's ever changing. That which is real with a capital R does not change. It is based in truth. But anything that is forever changing is considered an illusion. However, it's real in the sense that it's real. So it's not like we just ignore this reality. No, not at all. This reality is very important for the expansion of consciousness of the soul. So the evolution of consciousness is complete when one is human, but then we go into the next phase. So after we reincarnate over and over again and have multitude of experiences, then we embark on the path of involution, the return back to God, back to oneness, back to unity consciousness. So if you can imagine an infinity symbol, and the center of that symbol is the Om point, the beginning, where the soul is born. And then the soul goes on a journey of evolution until it reaches human. And then once it reaches human, it goes through this period of reincarnation, and then it goes on a journey of involution, returning back to that Om point, back to source. So we are all in different phases of the journey. So that's why we can't expect everybody to understand what we're talking about when we talk about these types of things, higher consciousness and the soul and God, because they may still be on the beginning of their journey, like a new soul or a young soul, if you've ever heard these terms, a young soul and an old soul. An old soul's been around the block a few times. A young soul is very, doesn't have a lot of the information that the old souls have. So we have to have a lot of patience with all types of souls, realizing that every soul is a spark of God. And so we focus on our own journey and we utilize the ego personality in order to traverse this realm, in order to relate to the illusion, to connect. But the point of the soul's reality and existence is to awaken in the dream, to realize it has an ego personality, that it's not the ego personality. So the soul is asleep until it awakens, until it realizes this is a temporary reality. It's all an illusion. Do not get attached. Do not identify. And yet, what does the ego personality do? It identifies with everything in form, the body, the mind, its thoughts. I am a man, I am 60, I am Italian, I am, right? It identifies with all of these qualities, these traits, But these traits are just for this moment in time, for this incarnation. It's all useful. But if we get caught up in our identity, then we get lost in the illusion, right? We get caught up in this temporary construct. But the goal of the construct is actually dissolution. The goal of the ego personality is to dissolve. So essentially, it's a container. It's a container. And that container, as the soul awakens, as the soul has realizations, that container begins to dissolve. And that can take many, many lifetimes. But each lifetime, we're moving more and more towards that dissolution state, to the state of soul awareness, soul consciousness, returning to source. And so, for this reason, the first step of awakening is I have an ego personality. It's not me. I have it. My soul possesses it. It doesn't possess me. So then that begins to create a little bit of separation between the mask and the true self, the identity and the one who was witnessing that identity. So the next stage is the witness, creating more space between the ego personality and the true self and the world in front of it. Because the ego personality is in reaction to the illusion, in reaction to whatever is in front of it. And that's how you know you are stuck in the ego personality. It is filled with reactivity, anger, judgment, jealousy, victimhood, confusion, hopelessness, depression, right? Fear, overwhelm, disinterest, dissociation. There's all of these qualities to the ego personality that limits the soul's experience. And so those experiences of limitation are useful because what we can then do is step by step, we start to work with those limitations and transform them. We use the suffering, the soul uses the suffering as a tool to transform the ego personality, to dissolve it. So if we resist the suffering, if we resist the experiences we're having, then we perpetuate the split in consciousness that the ego perceives from, that the ego lives in, that the ego thrives upon. The ego loves the split. It loves the good, bad, right, wrong, me versus you, because it is operating from that sphere of consciousness. It's a very limited perspective of reality. But also we are fed this. Maya, right? The illusion, the machine is feeding us with duality. Like the government, for example, you're either a Democrat or a Republican, red or blue. And then what do? We fight each other. So it perpetuates, this reality. Maya perpetuates the split in consciousness because she feeds off of it. So again, the way we are liberated from this split, from the dream of duality and separation, is we step back and we observe it through the lens of the witness. That is the awakening of the soul. Oh, I'm in a body. I have a body right now. I'm having experiences in a body. I have a mind, and this mind is creating thoughts. And I can connect to people with these thoughts. And I can connect to the world by listening to the world's thoughts. Oh, this is my tool. I possess it. It doesn't possess me. This is the pivotal point of the shift in the expansion of consciousness. I possess it. It doesn't possess me. And so, just like in the beginning, when we are in meditation, we have that greater level of awareness of the splitting consciousness, of this distinction. And so, more and more, we want to live in the world in meditation, in harmony, equilibrium, in love, in unity consciousness, not perpetuating the split, but perpetuating or generating unity consciousness. It's the opportunity we have every single day, every single thought. We have that capacity, but it takes effort to not get pulled into, to not get sucked into the illusion and the drama. And now it is greater than ever before because the energy is shifting on the planet. And so we're going to feel that squeeze. We're going to feel the pressure of expanding our awareness and moving beyond the split, not engaging it, but stepping further back, honoring it for what it is, because God doesn't judge anything, right? And if we're all sparks of God, there's nothing to judge. There's nothing to blame. There's nothing to project upon, because we're pulling all of our energy back into ourself. It's all right here. The whole universe, all of existence is in this soul, because this soul is a spark of God. And so it's holographic. So there's nothing outside of me that is not within me. Therefore, there's nothing to judge. And so we go to those higher qualities, soul qualities, in order to live in this state of consciousness and unity consciousness. We go to unconditional love. We go to acceptance. We go to forgiveness. We go to trust and faith. This is how we move beyond the mask of the ego personality and how we feed and nourish the soul. And then we are living embodiments of that, walking in the world. We are radiations of that consciousness. And our presence sparks other souls awake, because we're all interconnected. There is no separation. So when we drop into that question of who am I, we go through and we exhaust. I am not the mind. I am not this body. I am not this world. I am not these relationships. I am not my possessions. I am not my ego personality. Well, if I'm not all these things, all these aspects, then who am I? Well, I'm one with everything. If I'm one with everything, then I am that I am. I am God is ultimately the answer to who am I. But that is a construct with the mind, right? That is an idea at this point. The goal is to go on the involutionary journey and realize that truth, that I am God. I am not separate. I am not split. I am not angry. I may have experiences of anger, but I'm not anger. I am not jealousy. I am not fear. I may have experiences of being afraid, but I'm none of these limitations. I am an infinite expression of source, having a finite experience in form. So much more can be spoken about with the ego personality. And I will say one more thing, actually. There is a phrase that I live by that when I came across it in my 20s, I felt this is my path. And the phrase is to die before you die. Die before you die, which is essentially the realization that this ego personality needs to dissolve. And so every time I hit a wall, frustration, anger, resistance, victimhood, that's an opportunity to die to my limited self and limited perspective of reality. So when we live by this precept, we are liberated in each moment if we can remember to recall this precept. So let's stop there and move to the next part of the healing room. And go into view, gallery. Hey, y'all. Good to see you. Any thoughts, any comments on this topic of conversation, which is a very full and rich and ongoing topic, but it's what we have to consider being in these bodies and having a multitude of experiences, because it's so easy to get caught up in the drama of the world. So easy, and especially now. So holding on to the inner self at this point in time, is very important from my perspective. So you don't get pulled into the stream of unconsciousness that is being, perpetuated in the world, because that's what this world does. That's what the illusion does. It wants more and more of itself. But as each one of us steps out of that river, then more awareness expands on the planet and in human consciousness, because we're all connected. We're all connected by the heart. So as each one of us awakens, the next heart awakens. And so the inner work that we do, all that time we spend on the inner work, is so invaluable. I can't even tell you, because a soul that's vibrating at a higher frequency can impact thousands upon thousands of souls without even contacting them, without having any physical contact, because everything is energy. So a soul that achieves higher states of consciousness, just sitting in their home, can impact miles and miles of other souls nearby. So keep on keeping on. That's what that meant. That's what that means. So when you think like, oh, life is too hard, it's too much to do, it's too much suffering, realize that you're not doing this work for yourself. The work is being done for the multitude of everyone else waking up. I mean, if I didn't spend all those years in the dark night of the soul, then I couldn't be here having this conversation with y'all, I couldn't be here with this level of awareness and understanding to be able to transmit it, because I am now an embodiment of what I'm talking about. I'm not just talking from a book that I've read. Yeah, the evolution of the soul, that's coming from God Speaks. But a lot of what I'm transmitting is coming from an embodiment of my understanding of these concepts because I've lived through them, not from a book that I've read. So everything that we do impacts the greater whole, impacts everything. Yeah, Joe.
Hi, Joseph. Hi,
Hi.
everyone. How you doing? Thank you so much. And I wanted to just share a little bit about I'm experiencing lately, and especially in regards to dying before you die, because I've also really, I don't want to say believe, but I like trust that process. That's the path I like to take. And so, um, like these days, this like kind of period of my life that started, I'd say, in the fall, late fall, is definitely another transitional phase again, once again. And I'm finding that like I'm realizing now, maybe, in this phase that okay, so this is a kind of death. This is a transitional phase. This is an expansion of consciousness. So when those um, when those feelings of fear come up, or when those feelings of like unworthiness or lack of confidence or like total confusion come up, and they seem rather strong. I would say they seem stronger than like in other times of my life, but maybe that again is just because I'm experiencing it now. But it feels fresh. It feels like super visceral. But I have okay, so this must be a really big leap. That's what I'm feeling. I'm like, okay, so this time around, this phase, like there must be a like the level to which the fear feels strong to me feels like this is the level to which expansion is possible.
Yes, very well said. It's hard to describe it.
Hmm.
Um, like, yeah, the greater the suffering, the greater the expansion in consciousness, the greater the possibility to realize something so beyond this limited reality. And when we're at that point, that's when we really want to surrender because who's afraid, right? Who's the one afraid? That's the ego personality saying, oh my God, we're going to die. And the answer is, yeah, you're going to die. You're here to die. You're here to dissolve. But I don't want to die. Okay, I hear you don't want to die. And that's your path. You've served a certain purpose until you don't. And so the ego personality resists the death process. It resists the transformation because who is it going to be? I know who I am. I know what my identity is. I am safe in this familiar realm of identification. Man, 60, living in this reality. I have this job. I have these friends. I don't want to break out of this. And the soul is like, no, we need to expand. And it's like, no, 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 I want to, no, we need to. So you have this kind of push-pull relationship, but the soul is always going to win. And so the personality is like, oh my God, what's happening? What's going on? And that's why I like to work with energy medicine to support the ego personality in the death process, in the dissolution process, saying, it's okay, sweetie. On the other side, it's going to be much better than this. So don't worry about it. Here, take some drops, take a homeopathic remedy. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I can do this. Like the dark night of the soul, sweet chestnut remedy and flower essence talk. It's such a helpful remedy because it calms the ego personality and allows it to go through the death process without the resistance. It goes into acceptance. So that's the movement from the ego personality to higher soul qualities. And that's why we use these remedies because it facilitates the death rebirth process much, much more gracefully. And also the other aspect of when we are in that intense birth canal, rebirth canal of death and rebirth, it's not just for ourself. So the ego personality is, oh, I'm afraid, or I don't want to do this. And it's always this thought about me. I'm going through this and it's happening to me. But the reality is, we're going through this experience for that which is beyond the self, beyond the ego personality, beyond this individual being. So there'll be some of us in this reality that will take on much, much more energy for the collective. And this is why it's important not to personalize our pain and suffering. It is beyond the individual self. And that's what I came to, because I've been through so many years of this intense suffering. And I'm like, what's the point? What is the point of all of this? What have I done? I remember when I was 33 and I was going through such intense, experiences, physical, mental, emotional, on all levels. And I was beside myself. It was a time I was just like laying in bed for months at a time. And I spoke and I said, I must have done something terrible in past lives to be having this experience. And then my inner voice said, go watch the movie Joseph. I think I've shared this story with y'all. Have I? Have I shared it? Some are saying no. Robert's saying yes. Oh, Allison, you say yes?
You shared it on some of the other healing.
Okay. So I'm not going to share it again, but it was basically about a person's journey through suffering. And in the end, it was for the benefit of all mankind. And so I came to understand that our personal experiences are not personal, they're transpersonal. And so instead of resisting, I would say, welcome the shifts, welcome the suffering. As uncomfortable as it is, it's our part of supporting the collective in this body. And we each have our own challenges, our own path of suffering, great amounts, small amounts, whatever it is. That's part of this reality, is there's going to be suffering. Our job is to face that which is in our face. Face whatever presents itself, welcome it in, right? I accept you, I embrace you. I embrace you. And then that's our work. That's our part. You had something more you wanted to add, Joe?
You mentioned flower essences. I have a very practical question about those. There's two different kinds, with alcohol and a non-alcoholic form. Do you have a preference? Is there a difference?
No, there's no difference. I tend to use the one with alcohol in it.
Okay, because like the box store, like on Amazon, for example, they seem to only carry the non-alcoholic version.
Oh, really?
Yes, but at least that's what it says on the description.
Oh, the BACH,
BACH. It's the Bach Flower Essence store.
right, from England.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that. I get the essences from California.
Okay.
So, and it's made in England.
Mm.
They're called the herbs, healing healing herbs or healing herbs kit.
Mm.
And I like them a lot, probably even more than the other ones. So, and they have alcohol in it, and it's made exactly the way Dr. Batch made them. So, I just order those, and I have kits too. If you want kits, I can send them to you. But I have, I get those. I use those essences above all others because I've been using them for 30 years with great results. So I know that they are quality remedies.
Great. Thank you.
Sure thing. Anyone else? Thoughts, sharings? Need of support. Yeah. Hunter. You have to unmute. Not yet. You have to unmute. You should see a button there that says unmute. It's blue.
Okay.
There
How's
you go.
that?
That's good. Now you're visible. There you go.
This was just such a consummate consolidation of everything for me. Just, I mean, the die before you die. I mean, that I had heard, and it just, I thank you for remembering. But to get it correctly, what did you said? I am not it. It is not me. Could you just take a minute and just go through that one more time?
What is the it I was talking about? You mean whatever is in front of me, this world of illusion?
No, it as far as
I possess it, it doesn't possess me.
the personality. I mean, the body, the mind, from the observer standpoint,
Right.
reminding.
So at this point, when we're asleep, the ego says, I am this body, I am this mind and these thoughts. I am this expression, this male, female, personality, nationality. I am my job. I am my role. But from the lens of the witness, it's I have a body. I have a mind. I am a male in this incarnation, but it doesn't possess me. I possess all of these qualities, but they don't possess me. So I'm the master. As the witness, I am the master of my reality. Reality is not mastering me. I'm the authority. Reality, this illusion, is not the authority. The external world is not the authority. The authority is God inside here. That is the authority. That is the creator. That created all of this. So if the God within is the generator of all of this, then I possess this. It doesn't possess me.
So the I is not really an individual I. When one says, I possess it, it does not possess me. From the standpoint of the I, that's the I that's related to
The all and everything. It's the God.
the everything I,
It's
as
the God
opposed
stuff,
to
right?
as opposed to the semantics of and limitations of language. So that's the awareness.
Yes.
Okay.
The awareness
Is
is
using the word
aware.
I.
The awareness, right? The awareness is aware that the external world is not an external anything. It's all part of me, of my creation. So the I that speaks is the soul, and the soul is part of the greater self. So it's God speaking through into this reality.
Well, possess was the explosive pivotal word I wanted to hear you say again. That's enough. I mean, that's phenomenal. Thank you.
Yeah, possession, authority, witness, all of these terms gives me the claim to existence. I am the creator. I generated everything. So in the beginning of the awakening process, it begins with, I'm not a victim. I created this experience for me. And then the ego personality resists. But why would I create being abused as a child. That makes no sense. And so where there is this inner dialogue between the ego personality and the soul. And it's like, well, you don't understand the greater sphere of consciousness, the whole experience of the journey of the soul to be able to understand how we created being, quote, abused as a child. So in the beginning, it's these realizations of I'm not a victim, I'm actually the creator of my reality. And so the ego personality has to, sit with that for a while until it can expand its consciousness to be like, oh, I understand. I don't have the bigger picture. And so that becomes a death. That, oh, I understand. I don't understand. There's a death of the ego personality. It's the beginning of dissolution. And if I don't understand that, how much more is there that I don't understand? And then it keeps expanding like, oh my God, I don't understand anything. I actually don't understand anything. And then it sits in that void for a while of, oh my gosh, it's all nothing. It's nothing and it's everything, which again, these are all words. And it's hard to grasp the words without the experience. I can speak to the experience because I've had the experience. I've sat in the void. I've sat in the expansion. I've sat in the cocoon, dissolving to the limited self, right? That caterpillar in its perspective. I've sat in the cocoon watching the dissolution of that temporary self as I began to grow into a greater self, the butterfly. And then I'd achieve that. And then as soon as I hit a certain state as that butterfly, all of a sudden it's like, I'm back to the caterpillar again. Oh, I thought I knew something as the butterfly. Yeah, I got a little greater perspective, perhaps, as I raised and, saw from a different perspective. But then as I reached the boundary of that perspective, I return to the caterpillar again, and then I go through another death, yet another death to this greater expanded self that I thought was it. Oh, I figured it out. Oh, really? Time to die another death. And then I'm in this dissolution process, once again, looking at the old self that I was, and then stepping into this new expanded perception of reality. And then I'm born into yet another butterfly. And then I'm like, oh, now I see. And then I grow and I expand until I hit the boundary of that level of consciousness. And then I'm like, now I'm a caterpillar again. I was just a butterfly. How did I turn into a caterpillar? Oh, because I'm attached to this perspective. So now I have to die again to that level of consciousness, that expanded level. And then I'm back into my cocoon phase. And so continuously, we are dying and being reborn in this reality. And that to me is the goal, to die before you die, so that in the end, there's no more boundaries. There's no more ego personality. There's simply residing in God consciousness.
Well, with one deft slice of the sword, you took the single letter I and cut it right in half. Does that make sense?
Sure.
I mean that was just exhilarating. It's like seeing it just in Roman form, just cut. So there's the I deal with the ego, and then there's the I that's limitless, that's observing it.
Right. And so we have the two eyes, right? which perceives reality through the lens of duality. And then we have the single eye. And that eye pierces the veil of illusion. That single eye, that's why we close our two eyes, then we sit in meditation and we sit in the single eye and we pierce the veil of illusion. And then we see reality for what it is. Again, this is a progression over many lifetimes. many reincarnations. So we are accumulating data, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And we are riding the next wave of our previous revelations. And so everything we experience, all the spiritual work that we do, benefits us from lifetime to lifetime. And then we can have access to all of that at certain moments in time in an incarnation because we have access to the soul, and the soul is infinite. So the more we dissolve the ego personality, the more the soul becomes fully embodied. It becomes more present, and all the gifts that we've accumulated over lifetimes drops into this reality. And all of a sudden, we find ourselves with these capacities that we have no idea where they came from. It's like, wow, I never knew I could do that. Like, how many things I do in this world in my healing work that I have not studied. But no doubt, I have accumulated these abilities over lifetimes because there's no other explanation. No other explanation. So that's why it behooves us to do this very challenging work, but it's the most essential work because otherwise we can just perpetuate our own suffering on the planet by repeating unconscious patterns, feeding samskaras, right? Just repeating the same things over and over again with the same souls. Right? It's like Groundhog's Day, that movie. You ever watched that movie?
Many times.
Such a great movie because it speaks to reincarnation.
That's
But
what it is, yeah.
he died before he died because he was blessed with the ability to repeat the same day over and over and over again. So it was a curse in the beginning until it became a blessing and until he then became a blessing to the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
He transformed. So he was able to do that in one day. But the movie was displaying for us that we have this capacity to transform our consciousness, to expand our consciousness by being aware of the patterns and shifting the patterns from the ego personality to the soul perspective.
So I don't want to take up any more time, but quickly, would it be so to work this as a mindful exercise? Would it be profitable just for separation to think of lowercase I for lowercase reality and uppercase I for capital T for truth, for infinite oneness with, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you could do it that way.
I mean, this was explosive, Joseph. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Good stuff. Any other thoughts? Any other perspectives? Yes, Claudia. Not yet. You haven't unmuted yet.
I think Heather had her hand up before me, so
Okay.
you can go first.
All right, you can go, Heather.
Sure, thank you. I just have a quick question. Last month you had said that spiritual people who are more spiritual have a harder time dissolving their ego, and I just wonder if you could elaborate on that. That it was a bigger job, or more challenging.
Well, it's not that it's more challenging. It's that if the ego latches on to the spiritual concepts, then it becomes a spiritual ego. And it's very tricky because you can't necessarily see that it's a spiritual ego or that I'm being condescending towards others because they're not as spiritual as I am. So the spiritual ego can be a trap. And if you're caught in that, you can get, I mean, no doubt it is a place to get stuck in for maybe a few incarnations, perhaps for some of us. And until we're like, oh, I see what I'm doing, because you really can't tell someone who's doing that they're doing it, because the ego's going to resist. You see how tricky it is? I've had people, spiritual people, working with, yes, spiritual ego can hijack the I am God concept for itself. Absolutely right. Keith just messaged that one. It is a hijacking. And so I've worked with people like that, and I will say it in different ways, but I will not get receptivity from it because it's not ready. The spiritual ego is not ready to hear it. It doesn't want to hear such a thing. It believes that it is the real deal, but it's still stuck in the egoic state. So that ego is definitely more difficult to dissolve than your basic elemental ego. That was what I was saying last time. But no, not everyone who's on a spiritual path. Yes, it's more of a razor's edge when you're on a spiritual path, because that ego, that the ego personality can hijack your spiritual, adventure, your spiritual progress. It can hijack it in the name of being spiritual. But no, not everyone who's spiritual has to deal with that spiritual ego per se. It depends. Each person is different. But that's why, I am grateful that I have this inner voice, this inner teacher that speaks to me, because whenever I have gone off center, it would say, "What are you doing?" Very simply, no judgment, just, "What are you doing? What, what do you know?" Like if I was judging someone, it was such a slight thing, like, "Oh, that homeless person is so young, they should get a job." And all of a sudden I'll hear, "What do you know?" And it's like, oh, I don't know anything. So I have a safety mechanism, a protective mechanism within me, somehow cultivated over lifetimes, that whenever I go into a judgmental or egoic state, I have a voice that informs me immediately I'm off center. I'm in judgment. I am not embracing the all and everything. So to me, that is a very positive, I am blessed to have such a teacher to be present with me all the time. And one could call it their higher self. It's various aspects. I don't, whatever name you want to give it. I call it the voice within. The voice within spoke, and it is the wise part of me. It is the wise counsel, the elder. That answer your question, Heather? Great. Claudia.
Thank you for everyone and for you to bring this subject. I think it's so interesting and poignant for this moment. And my question is, I feel that I keep feeling that I'm dissolving and in dissolution, and I'm realizing sometimes that not really, because dissolving in my awareness, I have an idea that I have to give time for this full dissolution.
That's
And
hilarious. Well, you have to give time. You don't really have a choice, right?
no,
You're dissolving. There's not much choice you have but to be present with the process. So that's again the ego trying to inform you of what it looks like to be in a spiritual process. So whenever my ego does that, I'm like, thank you so much for your wise counsel. Like, thank you for your opinion. And then I just continue with my day. Because we can dissolve going to work, we can dissolve in dream time, we can dissolve, nobody can even know that we're dissolving, right?
Right.
So it's a process that sometimes it looks like I have to lay in bed for a while. Sometimes it looks like I need to be alone for a while. Sometimes it looks like I need to be in company and be in nature or be with friends. It can look very different for each person. So this is the importance of attuning to one's inner self to know what's needed for me in this moment in time. What's needed for me at this moment in time. So there are many times where I go through a lot of dissolution and I don't have an aura. So when we're in that death rebirth cycle, we're cracking, right? The former self that's dissolving means that our aura, our boundaries are cracked. They're open. So when you go into the world, that means you will take in a lot of information and it can feel overwhelming. At least for me, it does. Mm-hmm. So when I'm in that state of feeling very tender and hypersensitive, I take care of myself. My home becomes my aura, or going into nature, I feel like I have a boundary, I have a level of protection in nature. But when I am going through the dissolution process, I just each time tune in to see what is needed to further this process. What is needed? And sometimes I don't know. I have to ask my inner voice, like, is it okay to go out? I'm so confused as to my own identity at this moment because I'm in the void. I'm in the void. So that void experience is very confusing to people if they've not been through it before. But it's a very important part of the expansion in consciousness process, the expansion in awareness, sitting in the void and allowing ourselves to be reborn, to die before we die in this reality is such an important step in the process of becoming our true self again, in awakening our true self. Caterpillar, butterfly, caterpillar, butterfly. And there are some of us that are going through it continuously for whatever reason. I don't fully understand. But I feel like I'm one of those souls that is constantly upgrading, constantly going through a rebirth cycle. So, I accept that. My ego personality finally is like, okay, this is my life. And because it's my life, all my needs are met as they arise. Everything comes to me as I need it. The support, physical support, financial support, emotional support, whatever it is that I need, it all shows up in perfect timing miraculously. So when we commit to this experience, to this process of the expansion of consciousness, the expansion of our awareness, the embodiment process of our soul, the universe, the greater part of ourselves, provides us with everything that we need. And we need to learn to ask. Ask for what we need. Open up. Be receptive. I do this continuously. I'm always in a conversation. Like I'm selling a piece of property now. I'm like, okay, if it's your will, let it happen. And I can see my ego personality like, is it going to happen now? Is it really? Is this the one? Is it? And like, I can see that part of me trying to control out of impatience. And then I show up and I'm like, it's all going to happen in perfect timing. There's nothing to do. We followed the guidance. The guidance was let it go. It wasn't actually guidance. It was a very subtle impetus. 3 mornings in a row. On the third morning, I thought, that's the third time I got that very subtle hit. So I'm going to act on it. And I put it out there, and now it's in contract within 2 weeks. So when we are in alignment with the greater part of ourselves, everything is lived in a flow. I am in relationship to that greater part of me, and I am honoring the guidance as it arises, because clearly something is coming up on my future path that needs to have me free of any encumbrances, responsibilities that I've had in the past. So while we're in the body, there's always going to be this ego personality until we have achieved the penultimate of ego dissolution. We are going to be in a process of dissolving. So there's always going to be an ego there. No matter how aware I am, I'm going to have this part of me that's there. It's not strong, not nowhere near as strong as it used to be, but it's there. It's not here. It's not holding me. I'm holding it. That's the distinction. So when it speaks, I know its voice. When the guidance speaks, I know that voice. When someone else is contacting me, like psychically, I know that voice. So now I'm using this construct as a multidimensional tool of consciousness. So it's no longer just a physical human body. It's a multidimensional spiritual instrument. That's another level that we go to once we have died and been reborn many, many a time. We then realize, oh, this is like this divining rod that I can tap into, tune into, track, receive, send information. It's an incredible, the human being is an incredible instrument that when we drop into it in all of its glory, we begin to understand the manual of the multidimensional tool that it is. It's extraordinary. But most of us who are living from the limited ego personality caterpillar perspective have no idea of the infinite potential within this human being. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you. In fact, my question was, how do I surrender to the dissolution more and more? Because I feel many times resisting it.
So how do I surrender? So the ego is speaking right now. Your ego personality is asking, how can I surrender? Which is hilarious if you think about it. How can I surrender more and more to the dissolution process? It's a great question. How do I surrender more? You activate and sit in the witness. You observe the resistance. And then you say, my resistance is, and what comes up? What is my resistance?
I think my resistance is that this endless discomfort that comes and comes and comes and comes, you know.
And what's the feeling?
It's a feeling of my body's, I feel like I'm beaten up.
So victim.
Yeah.
So can I take some flowers for you?
Yeah.
So your ego is saying, I feel like I'm a victim. I'm constantly going through this process. I'm so tired of it. I'm being beaten up. So I'm going to give you willow and sweet chestnut. Sweet chestnut helps you. So your questioning process is asking for these specific flower essences. Sweet chestnut helps you to relax into the process. It releases the egoic resistance. So you can feel that, right? And then there's some grief there. So Star of Bethlehem is another remedy to go through during the dark night of the soul. So you're in one of those processes right now. So you see, when you sit with yourself and you're honest with yourself, then you know the flower essences, the remedies to help you have an easier birth, rebirth. So now, when you think about it all, how do you feel?
I feel open.
Right. So you see, the ego personality is contracted because I'm a victim, I'm being beaten. Why does it have to be so hard? And then you give the energetic medicine and it relaxes. It got stuck in between the exhalation and the inhalation. And then when you take the remedies, it starts to breathe again. And it's like, oh, I can do this. I can do this now. So this is the value of energy medicine. And this is why my soul called upon, various teachers in this lifetime to teach me all of these, spiritual tools so that I could more gracefully and easily go through this process, go through the dark night of the soul and the death and rebirth process. I don't know how I could have done all that I've done without these energetic medicines. They're invaluable.
Mm.
And you notice the difference, right?
Yeah, I do.
Is there anything else with that resistance?
No, I've been feeling constricted, like,
Yeah, I would go to cherry plum, which is like the part of the self that doesn't want to lose control. And also chestnut bud for breaking patterns, and walnut for letting go and stepping into the next phase of life. Oh, that's good. Breaking through, letting go to the next phase of life. Yeah, your destined path is being fulfilled. So nothing's going to stop you, but this just makes the process easier, more graceful. You feel that? Yeah. Wonderful.
thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for
Mhm.
being present with me in that level.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Thoughts? Yes. Carol.
Hi, Joseph. Thank you. It was a
Hi.
really good talk. It's really resonated deeply with me. But I'm noticing, particularly when you talk about dying before dying, there's this fear, like a knot of fear in my heart. Um, and you may have already answered it when you said that sweet chestnut is the essence that helps with that. But I would have thought that cherry plum might also help
Both
with
of them.
both of them.
Yeah, both cherry plum and sweet chestnut work with that fear of surrendering and letting go. Also, if it's the fear of the unknown, you can add aspen, because that's part. Usually, when I give like a dark night of the soul remedy combination, flower essence combination, I will put in aspen as well as cherry plum, as well as sweet chestnut, as well as others, depending upon the specific, what people are presenting specifically. But those three are generally in there, which relates to fear and letting go and surrendering.
Thank you.
So are you experiencing it now?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you have flowers there or no?
I actually don't. They're in another building. Unfortunately, I forgot to bring them to the session.
That's okay. So I will take a few remedies for you. That's good. Cherry plum. Oh yeah, there's a lot going on inside here. Almost like panic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Rock rose. There's some sort of a trauma that's caught. Let's see if we can move that. Trauma in your spine. Oh yeah. I'll give you rock rose. And then Star of Bethlehem. Old trauma. And it's in your solar plexus.
Mm.
Let's see if we can move it out. Rock water. Yeah, it's something pretty deep holding on. Chestnut bud. Oh, that is deep. Aspen. Oh. Honeysuckle. Past life. There we go. Oh, oh, that's better. What are you aware of?
I'm aware of movement, and I'm aware of I'm wanting to laugh at it now.
You're wanting to laugh at
There,
it now.
there's this impetus to laugh at what's going on. Like like I'm not as caught up in it.
Good. That's the beginning of an integration. That's good. I'm going to bring you back to yourself, Centauri. That's good. And Larch. Oh, there's also some old guilt stuff there.
But yeah, guilt is a big one.
Yep. Oh, that's good. That's better. The back is opening up. Oh, good. That's good. It's a spot right in the thoracic vertebrae. We're going to open that up. There we go. Good. What are you aware of now?
Um, that feeling of sort of panic, that knot of panic has abated. Has,
What percentage?
um, I mean, there's still a trace of it. I can feel it in my throat.
What's the emotion there?
It's fear.
Yep. Mimulus. Fear of speaking your truth. Crucified for speaking your truth. There we go. That was the integration I was looking for. So this was some past life stuff that was kind of lingering as it was trying to move through you. And what are you aware of now?
Feel quite emotional.
Yeah. Now the dam is open, the river can flow, and you can just release the emotions. So I'm going to give you a little more rock water so you can let go of the withholding. Star of Bethlehem again. And honeysuckle again to integrate. Good. What are you aware of?
I feel much calmer.
Yeah.
It was that when you said crucified for speaking my truth, that really, I felt that hugely.
Yeah. It was a samskara. It was a memory that was moving through you and it got stuck. So the flowers just help to, it greases the portal
Mm-hmm.
and to help things move through us more easily and gracefully. That was good. That was just a few minutes. You see, it doesn't take much when you have the know-how of how to take care of these situations and not attach to them or create a story or give meaning to them, right? You don't contract in the experience, you expand in the experience. Like, oh, I'm moving through something rather than the ego personality wants to create a story. Something is wrong. Oh, this is bad. And it's like, no, it's just an experience. I'm just moving through something. But see, that's why it's helpful to have someone that sees, a clairvoyant, a clairaudient, a healer who can see to translate it for you. And then it moves through much quicker. But we can do this for ourselves. We simply need to cultivate these abilities. We all have these abilities, all of us. We simply need to cultivate these capacities.
Thank you very much.
You are so welcome. Good stuff. See, her healing is all of our healings. I felt that. I received the gift of her integration. It's beautiful. Nothing's ever a problem. We just make things a problem, but they're not. The ego sees through the lens of a problem, but the greater part of ourselves is everything is an opportunity. That's the distinction. A problem versus an opportunity. So when it's an opportunity, it's basically what's the solution? What is the solution to this opportunity? I love that perspective. So much better than, good, bad, wrong, right. So much better, so much easier to deal with life. Anyone else? Any thoughts? Any support needed? We covered a lot of ground and gosh, not a lot of time. That's my goal though, is I like to drop a significant amount of information in a I like the cliff notes to spirituality, the cliff notes to higher consciousness. Oh, that's another book possibility. So yeah, I like to condense things into bite-sized morsels in a nice little period of time. So this is great. Anything else? Anyone else? Yes, Hunter.
Yeah, I've just been dealing with a lot of fear of the unknown, selling the house, having to sell all my tools, 50 years worth of tools, kind of divesting myself of everything that seems to be a part of me and looking at it starkly. And at 79 going, this is not how I pictured things ending up. And it's like, yeah, it's sort of like being repeatedly body slammed, and I'm working it as best I can and coming to terms with it and so forth. But yeah, it's like a lifetime coming to a head here, and just aware of this late date in my life and facing just complete unknown, total unknown, no idea where we're going, anything. And it's yeah, I don't, that's the best.
Shall I take some flower essences for you?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Oh,
So aspen for the fear of the unknown. Sweet chestnut for the dark night of the soul. This is not how I thought my life was going to go. So the ego personality is really being faced with a lot right now. Mimulus, or known fears. And for the fear of losing control, cherry plum. And we'll throw some willow in there in case there's any victimhood of, I have to do this thing now at 79 years old. I cannot believe it. This is not what I saw for my future. And then honeysuckle, letting go of the past. And white chestnut for a very busy mind. On and on it goes. And then walnut for cutting the ties with the no longer needed past and stepping into the next phase of existence. So if I was in your position, I would be saying, I give up. Show me the way. If I wanted to, like, if you wanted to stay there, if I wanted to stay somewhere, I would say, I would prefer in my coming years, elder years, to remain at this space. But if it's your will, and I'm speaking as the ego personality now, if it's your will, as if God is separate from me, if it's your will that I leave here, I am ready to go. Show me the path and I will follow. Show me the way and I will follow. That's the surrendering. That is the prayer that I would give. And then I would let the cards fall where they may, and then let it go. That's how I would work this. So what are you aware of after I take all the flower essences?
Kind of still the same, bit anxious, but I've been surrendering. I mean, proclaiming surrender the last few days up until, but there's just a tightness in my chest.
What's the emotion in your chest?
I would say fear.
It feels different though than when I first started taking the flowers. It's different. It's more of a wild rose, kind of a relinquishing. Do you have a time frame when things have to get done? Is it on the market? What's the scoop?
Yeah, we took it off the market briefly because of the time it went on, and it was wintertime, but it just went on the market on yesterday. And so it's open season. And so just it's when it happens. It's on the market now, and uh, yeah,
Yeah, it's a time of letting go. It's a time of grieving.
yeah,
So it feels more like grief,
yeah,
letting go of an attachment, perhaps.
yeah. I mean, I've said this many times before. This is like the only home I feel like I've ever had in my life, and yet I know now it's not my home. It's like I'm in limbo. Um, but I have to let it go. And there's just so much. I mean, I've like poured my life into this with all the custom work and 12 years of. So yeah, it's definitely it's grief.
Yeah.
Um, and everywhere I look around, I'm reminded of my God, how long that took, what I put into it, and stuff that could go unnoticed. But I mean, just transformative work, um, and it's like an identity. I feel like I'm losing my whole identity.
Yeah.
Um, the tools are wrapped up in it. That's a lifetime. The work I did, and I just feel totally empty. Um, yeah, identity and emptiness.
Yeah, that's the void. That's the void. I hear you. I hear you, Terry.
It's like the pivotal point of my life. It makes everything, I mean, the things, the place, and so forth, everything up until now on one side, and I feel like eternity is on the other, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what feels, and yet I know at the deepest part of my being, what I can't seem to access, it's a knowing that this is something I've been crying for since I was born.
Yeah. I would engage that prayer. There was a book I read once, and there was a prayer in there that have employed ever since. That was 30 years ago. And it's, Thy will be done, Lord, not mine, in me and through me. Show me what I must do this day that I may be a clear channel of your divine presence. So it's a it's a prayer of surrenderance. And so the first part
Yeah,
of thy will be done, like show me the way.
yeah,
So you are being asked right now something profound. And so you're in a conversation, you're engaging source. And so in your position, I would say exactly what I said earlier. This home resonates for me, and I'd love to stay if there's any possibility. I am open to receiving. And if there is some other place for me to go, I surrender and I move on. And then there's no attachments disturbing the whole process. Because my inner voice always says, you cannot lose what is yours.
Yeah.
You cannot lose what is yours. So if for whatever reason it's time to move on, it's time to move on. And if not, then not.
Yeah.
But we stay neutral. We stay in the witness mode. And this way, we are in the river being taken.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a time of huge changes for many people right now. So surrenderance is our greatest spiritual tool. Surrenderance is our greatest spiritual tool. So let's see what unfolds.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Allison.
I have a thought about earlier when you were thank you for everything that you shared, everyone. And there was this thought about I guess it just for me, I guess it just boils down to trust, and simple as that, but so difficult. But trusting the process, trusting the inner authority, whatever comes our way, and allowing. Because I guess the question I have is, why is the ego personality, like, why has it been, I don't know if the right word is, so the ego personality is here to interact with the illusion,
Mm-hmm.
Maya. And then the journey is the dissolving of that.
Yep.
So then in my mind, I'm like, why is it this formula?
Why is it this formula?
Why is it this formula? Like, who came up with this? We all came up with this, but why did we decide? Like, why is it this formula?
It's a game.
Yes, but then I'm just like, what for? It just goes back to that question of what for,
To
but then
answer the question, to have various experiences, and to answer the question, who am I? So when we are faced with all these aspects in front of us and within us and around us, we get to fine tune the answer to, I'm not any of these things. And then we realize I'm beyond all of these things. If I'm beyond all these material things in this world, in this reality, this body, this mind, then who am I? I am God.
Mhm.
So the who came up with this is yet another question of the ego personality that's like, I want to know. And then when it knows something, it has another question. And then another question and another, so it's never satisfied because I don't understand. I'm with you. I don't understand why. Why? Why do we have to? This is so ridiculous. Sometimes I'm like, this is just, why do we have to eat every day 3 times? This is ridiculous. Surely we could do something better with this system and make it more efficient. You know how much time it takes to cook and shop and eat and clean, and oh my God, then you have to digest it and go to the bathroom. And it's like, what? Who came up with this stuff? And it is what it is.
Mhm.
So the answer to why is because.
Mhm.
The
And
answer to why is because. But
and
if you think about it, there's some genius to it all. Like if you just consider this body, it's like, wow, all that it does within itself, it is a creation of genius. Like when you start to just step back and observe, it's like, wow, everything is so perfectly designed. Who did that? Wow. So then you can stay in awe.
Mhm.
Then you can just go to awe instead of
Mhm.
why. Be like, awe. Like, awe.
Yeah, I think that's where the trust part, where it's like I can just sit and trust in awe and
Yes.
and presence and acceptance and surrender and just and presence and trust. Anyway.
Yeah. It's a practice. It's always a practice. And that's why the witness is one of our greatest tools to anchor into so that we can be present with what is, but not get caught up in what is. Be present with, but not get caught up in it. But the witness, I want to be clear here, the witness is not apathetic. It's not indifferent per se. That's different. That is indifference and apathy is a personality trait. The ego personality can go into indifference and into disinterest and dissociation. That is very different than witnessing. Witnessing is very active, very present. We are being with what is. And that witness has the capacity to transform reality like nothing else because the witness is living and operating in integral consciousness. It's integrated, it's not separated. It comes from unity and oneness. So, very different to be in witness consciousness versus apathy or indifference or I don't care. That is an ego personality coping strategy to not want to deal with reality. But the witness is very powerful, transformatively powerful. So when I sit with people in sessions, my witness is 1000% activated. And that is doing the work. The witness is doing the work, holding space, not trying to do something, not thinking about doing something, being present with what is. And when you're present with what is, everything transforms to its original state. It becomes what it always has been because the witness is seeing through the eyes of truth and oneness. And therefore, the person being witnessed transforms back into their true self. So people think the healer is doing something, but they're not. The healer is being present, and the presence transforms, not the healer. This is the key. This is a major key to healing, is the witness and the presence. Not a doer, not a thinker, not a knower, not an ego personality, but this part of ourself that is transcendent and totally present at the same time, in the world, but not of the world. And so that is an arrival point. The witness is an arrival point. Curiosity, observing, loving what is, judging nothing, accepting everything. This is the work at hand. When you master that, everything else falls into place. Thy will be done, not mine, in me and through me. Show me what I must do this day that I may be a clear channel of your divine blessings for all. Which essentially says, use me as a tool for divinity. Wonderful. What a great night. Thank you all for being here and for being so receptive and open and great listeners.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Many great openings in our heart. And yes, you have a gift of putting in beautiful bundles that we can receive in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for saying that, putting it that way. I like that. There was a comment. I heard someone once say God when he split himself up into these countless souls, he had amnesia and completely forgot he is God. What does that say? I can't read that word.
And came the conditions.
In came the conditions, and we are in the process of awakening and realizing who we have always been. Yes, yes, Keith. Thank you. We are awakening and remembering who we have always been. I love that. What a great way to complete this evening. So I look forward to seeing you all next month. I don't know what the date is. I didn't even look. But yeah, thank you, Wendy. May you all be blessed. May you have a great month. And